Go. Nothing but quality here. Thank you, Bob. Woo. There we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pro Tour Talk with Steve Dodge. I'm Steve Dodge. Today is, I think it's the 11th. It is. It is Wednesday, July 11th, 2018. Thank you all very much for tuning in and or for listening. So the first thing that I want to do, I'm going to share something with our YouTube watchers. This is a picture of the new castle at Maple Hill. She's a beauty. And we're making two changes to the Maple Hill Gold course this year for the MVP Open. That is the first change. We will be using the castle again this year. And then hole 18, if everything goes as planned, we'll be lengthening it by about 80 to 100 feet. And it'll be lower in elevation by about 8 to 10 feet. So we're hoping it plays about 120 to 140 feet longer. The goal is to get that upshot onto the island green nice and tricky. So later on in the show, we'll be talking with Dutch Napier about his life on the road, and I think he's actually traveling right now, but not for himself. And then we will also have a conversation with him about follow-throughs in disc golf, and is it a good idea to follow through on your putt, or maybe on the fairway, and maybe the tee, maybe all that should be different. And then we're going to have a nice conversation with Jamie Thomas a little bit later about disc golf media and how we seem to be knocking it out of the park right now. So there's a lot of really exciting stuff, and stay tuned. We've got lots to talk about. And right after this quick break, we will bring Dutch in and start the conversation. All right. And there we go. That's our quick break. Hello there, Dutch. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Oh, ha. You got to love it when the studio doesn't unmute you. That's the guy in the studio's fault. That's not my fault. Hello, Dutch. How are you?
Control over that?
I got control over that. So, Dutch, where are you right now?
I am in Emporia, Kansas, in a hotel room where there's air conditioning because I was on the course all day in the heat with my two oldest sons. They were actually competing in the Junior Worlds. Yeah, it was awesome. Really hot out there today, but the kids withstood the heat.
They both are playing?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yes, I got one in 18 and under division, and I got one in the 15 and under division.
What were their expectations? What did they want to do?
Just like their dad, they want to win every tournament they play.
They're smart boys. And we talked a little bit earlier, and it sounds like they did not do as well as they had hoped in the first round.
No, they did not. They actually played 2 rounds today, and both of them was pretty brutal on them today. The heat was definitely a factor. Both of them are coming back from injuries. I have one that dislocated an elbow about 7 weeks ago, Friday to play in the Worlds. He has 100% usage of his arm again. He's been wearing a robot brace on his arm for the last 6 weeks.
Okay, is that thing, the arm out right in front of you? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they just pretty much had it stationary for the most part to let the tendons and ligaments and stuff make sure that there wasn't any tears and breaks and anything like that. And then also my son Zachary, he had a staph infection in his knee, which got cut out on Wednesday. And so he's playing with an open wound in his leg. Of course, he still wanted to win the tournament.
Of course.
He Friday as well from a doctor to compete as well this weekend or this week. They have 3 more days of competition coming.
Yeah,
and hopefully, they'll there's putting practice, or they're putting practicing right now while I'm quiet. They're outside in the heat still.
Well,
they don't want to give up.
When you're when you don't do as well in the first round, you're glad there's a lot of rounds. But when it's 100 degrees outside, you're not always glad there's a lot of rounds. So I wish them the best of luck, and they've got one of the best caddies in the world.
I hope they think the same. I do believe I'm the highest rated dad here, though.
Okay, that's I guess that's something.
Right.
The waves are coming in strong here at up in Maine today. But so, Dutch, you when did you start playing disc golf professionally?
I started professionally in 2008. I went to the 2008 Amateur World Championships, and was very, very lucky to meet Ken Climo. And he told me, he said, you'll never be the best in the world if you don't play with the best in the world. And literally the next week, whenever I went home, there was a tournament at my home course. I played open for the first time, and it was a B tier, and I won the tournament, and I never looked back from there.
Well, that is fantastic. And I think that he was right. I think if you want to get better, you have to play with people that are better than you and get as good as them.
Most definitely.
There's a bunch of people out there, your kids probably included, that watch Paul McBeth shoot an 18 down at D-Glow, and they know that can be done, and that's going to be their new target. And he just set a new bar for everybody, and hopefully the rest of us can all get a little better and try to beat him.
Yeah, and it's not just my kids, man. There's so many kids here at the Worlds that I've talked to about Paul McBeth being an 18 down round at Toboggan, and a lot of them that actually played in the U.S. amateurs this year at Toboggan, and they're just mind boggled. They have no clue how it was even possible.
I think Nico, who shot one off the course record and lost by 8, would say the same.
Yes.
So, Dutch, moving on to the topic at hand, I was talking with an old friend in arms, Trevor, who told me about some ideas you have for the fairway, and how and we're not actually proposing. I don't want to get anybody worried. We like thinking about things, and that's what we're doing right here. So we're going to think about things, and I'll throw this softball pitch to you. Thinking about the tee, the fairway, and the green, give us a proposal for things that we can think about as to how maybe things should be.
Right. Well, as you know, I like playing softball still, so I'm going to try to hit it out of the park.
Good.
Yeah, just in perspective of, with the 18 down round that Paul McBeth shot, wow. But if we were to make it to where you can still do the run up on your drives, possibly standstill shots from everything else. And whenever I say standstill, I just mean both feet planted before you throw. But whenever you release, of course you can still follow through and go past your disc. But with no run up, of course, your right foot has to be behind your disc. You can't step into the shot.
Okay.
He's not going to be able to reach the 900 and something foot uphill shot in 2 shots to get an eagle every round. He's going to have a lot harder time with it. Or Paul, being Paul, he might be able to do that. Actually, we don't know, because that's not how it is.
Yeah.
But what I was thinking is as closer to scoring to even par as the ball and stick game of golf. I think that whenever we see a 18 down round, people are like, oh, well, that just makes disc golf seem so easy that, I guess anybody can go out there and shoot an 18 down. And with a lot of the par 54 courses, the par 3 courses is what I would call them. That's able to happen whenever you're going to these beast of courses to where, it might change where you're like, man, a 3 down today was hot and that was great.
Yeah.
Even with with putting, it takes the step putts out, it takes the jump putts out and things like that. And it makes your standstills to where, you know, people like Ricky Wasaki is probably going to get a better advantage because he don't jump putt until he gets to 90 plus feet or more even, you
So
know?
let me ask a couple quick questions about this. And again, I'll just reiterate, this is just a proposal
Mhm.
that you and I are talking about, and hopefully some other people might think about. That's the goal. Um, so you're saying on the tee, you can run up and follow through as much as you want, as much as we do now.
Correct.
And on the fairway, and presumably the rough next to the fairway, you have to stand. Both your feet have to be planted, and then as you throw, because you're still trying to throw 350, 400 feet, you can obviously follow through past the disc. Past.
Correct.
Now, what happens on the green? Can you still follow through, or is that a does that
I
rule?
mean, I think that, you know, the inside the circle standard where you have to show control behind your disc with both feet, you know, I think that should still be the case.
Okay.
But from everywhere else, even, you know, from 60 feet, from 90 feet, you know, you don't get to go and take off running and jump into your shot and things like that. And it takes a lot of the foot fault cases out. You know, you don't have that argument. The video, you don't have the argument of, oh, well, we should use video to see if he foot faulted there, or to that matter, you know. And it takes the two or more people trying to say, oh, well, we're going to give this guy a stroke because we think that, hey, he didn't play it right, you know. I think it takes a lot of that question out of play.
That's a really compelling argument, especially when you couple it with the footfall, which has been a wonderful controversy this year, as far as controversy.
Right.
Now, I suspect you're familiar with golf and the way they work it. I'll run through the way I understand it. You can let me know if I'm correct. On the tee, you're allowed to tee it up, and you actually can raise your ball off the surface.
Correct.
And then on the fairway, you swing and you're allowed to actually take a divot. You can really go at it. And then, but you're not allowed to tee it up. And then on the green, obviously you can't take a divot. You have to just putt through the ball. Not that anybody would want to take a divot on a green, but so they actually
Right.
define and then they have sand traps as a special rule altogether, but we don't really have the equivalent of that. So they have 3 different areas defined, and the fairway area, which is the one we currently don't have defined, is defined in such a way that you can't hit it as far as you can off a tee.
Right.
Okay.
And that's the thing too, is you know, if we go to something like this, it also makes it to where course design comes to where we're not having 1,000-foot holes. We're having the par fives are going to be closer to the 800-foot mark, probably because of the way that it would play. And you know, we're getting to where the disc technology is so great now that they're making discs where people are throwing them, you know, 1,000 feet with Simon and David with 60-mile-an-hour winds. But you know, I mean, and realistically speaking, like there is some golfers that are out on tour that can throw 600 plus feet, you know, on command. You know, and 550 foot plus just straight hyzer shots, you know. But that would make course designing a little different too, because like I said, we're trying to make it to where it would be closer to the even par, I would think.
So do you think that getting to even par is an important part of what you're trying to do? What is the goal of this?
I think that like what it would be is whenever you go out and shoot a 6 under par, that would be, and ratings are different, you know. It would make it to where that 6 under par is a 1070 rated round, possibly, you know. If you shoot an even par, like I would like to see it to where, you know, if you build a course and you get to an even par, that's a standard of a scratch golfer. Scratch golfer in disc golf at this point is about 1,000 rated average. Even now, it's starting to leak up into, you know, probably 1,005 to 1,010, is pretty much a scratch golfer now. Because 8 to 10 years ago, if you were 1,000 rated golfer, you were top 50 in the world. To where now we have, possibly 500 plus 1,000 rated golfers across the world.
So I'm reading some comments that are coming in on the board, and they're I think pretty good comments. The one comment that strikes me is potentially have standstills in the quote rough, and so that we can actually use this concept to define and change the way the game's played in the rough. If you're on the fairway, you get your normal
you still get your run up,
and if you're in the rough, then you have to stand still. That sort of becomes a sand trap for disc golf.
Right. I like that idea. That's a great idea for me. And it gives you advantage and wants you to, forces you to want to hit a fairway.
Yeah.
Also on top of that though, you're going to have to go out and define the rough. You're going to have to know whenever somebody throws. So you're looking at course preparation and things like that could come into, costly for paint or anything like that. Unless we can get some kind of a paint sponsor or something that would be, give us however many thousands of cans of paint we would need a year to paint 10 courses up.
Well, the Pro Tour brings rope, so we could potentially help.
Fair enough.
And I'll go ahead and say D-Glow, those fairways were mowed beautifully, and then off the fairway they let the grass grow, and it was pretty clear where the rough was and where the fairway was.
Yes, the way that they did it at D-Glow was awesome.
Yeah.
And if you were in the rough, you didn't have much of a run up anyway at that place.
Right. So arguably they kind of did this rule without even meaning to. Actually, I did mean to.
The only thing is whenever you're in that kind of a situation, you go out for a practice round and you throw 3 shots in the rough and it takes you an hour to find 2 of them and you don't find your third. That's the only thing that makes it rough for the player, out there spending his time to try to learn a course.
Right.
Very frustrating as well. I lost a few myself that I never got returned because there ain't no telling where they went actually.
Right. I lost one out there. I played around and I lost one out there, and she's buried straight up and down in some sort of dark patch beneath some leaves. And that's the way. So, Dutch, how old were you when you started playing disc golf?
Oh, I started playing in 2000 and I was born in 81. So 19.
19. Was that okay? 19. Fresh out of high school. Who taught you the game?
It's actually kind of crazy. I found some kids swimming in a lake at my local park, and I was like, "What are you guys doing in there?" And they were telling me they were looking for disc in the lake, and I told them, I was like, "Look, you ain't supposed to be in there. It says no swimming." And I wasn't a park ranger by any means, but the park rangers there knew me because I'd been there as a kid, all the way through my adolescence and everything, and so I was trying to help them keep an eye out. And once they showed me what disc golf was, I was like, you know what? I'm going to get in the lake and find a couple of these myself. And I found 2 discs, and I played for the next 6 to 8 months religiously until it became wintertime and I couldn't, And then I ran into a guy. His name is Gary Finley, who is passed now, but he actually told me about tournaments and stuff in different places, which was really awesome because I didn't know that people competed for prizes or money or for a living at that point. And then in 2007 or 2008, actually it was 2007, I met Eric Roadhouse. And no, I met him in 2005. In 2007, I started caddying for him. Oh. And I went to the USDGC with him in 2008. And with the time with him, I learned a lot about the game, mentally, physically. I learned how to putt, mainly. Eric Roadhouse taught me how to putt. And he also taught me that a T-bird was not the longest blind disc ever, which I thought was true in 2008. And then, like I said, I won my first pro tournament in 2008.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that leads you up to my open career.
That's very nice. I have never heard, you always ask people, how did you find out about disc golf, the story for me has never started with I saw two guys swimming. That's a that's a good way to be introduced to the sport.
Right. And these kids were like 12 years old at that time. So like later in my time, I've actually taught them more about how to play disc golf as well. So it's kind of crazy how it all worked out.
Absolutely. And now here you are actually in Kansas City with two of your kids caddying for them. Are you going to alternate who you're caddying for?
I did today. I caddied for the youngest this morning.
Okay.
Caddied for the oldest this evening. But I did have to leave my oldest early this morning so that I could go pick the youngest up from a different course because it was like 15 minutes away. Make sure he wasn't just sitting out in the sun waiting for me.
Yeah.
And then come back and get the other one as well. So I think tomorrow I'm going to start. They both play the country club on tee times, which I don't know their tee time yet. But I think they're going to be kind of close together. And if they are, then, I'm going to start with the oldest and bounce back and forth there because that place is very long and it's going to be a grueling day for him. I think the heat index is supposed to be in or something like that. So I got to still be a dad and say, hey, drink water and get under the umbrella and find some shade and don't throw it OB.
That was actually going to be my next. Being a caddy is one thing, but being a dad is a very different thing.
Yes.
How much of your time when you're with these guys on the course is spent saying, stay in your head, be in the right place, focus on this shot versus, hey, I'm proud of you?
Right. Steve, I try to tell them every day of their life that I'm proud of them, no matter how they find out who they turn out to be or anything. And I hope that they understand that. But it's hard to get praise from me on the course. If you throw a bad shot, I'll let you know you threw a bad shot. So hopefully, they get it together and they'll throw some good shots and dad start praising them out on the course. But yeah, it's very hard to push the side by side,
Well, either way, I suspect they're going to grow up and be proud of their dad and all of the cool things that he did and did with them. This is going to be a trip that they remember forever, and maybe you guys will do it again next year and the year after. How many kids do you have, Dutch?
I have 5 kids. I got 3 boys and I got 2 girls. I got 2 17-year-olds. My oldest daughter, her name's Caitlin. She's actually just started her first job, and she's been practicing driving with mom while dad's gone. So that's been pretty exciting for her. And it really sucks that, I miss out on some things like this, being out on the road.
Yeah.
Because I'm a full-time dad when I'm at home.
Right.
And then I have Zachary and Brighton, which is my 2 after that. And y'all have heard, quite a bit about them as well. And then I have Tiana. She is 7 years old. She just got 7 stitches in her arm. While I was home in between Utah and Michigan, we went swimming in a lake. Imagine that. And she found something to cut her open in her arm. And we packed up 5 kids in the whole camp. And not one question was asked. Everybody listened. We were a great team. And dad drove 90 miles an hour all the way back home, which was about 45 minutes, which I was scared for my daughter's life. So I drove.
Yeah.
We got her there and she wound up with 7 stitches, and which just got taken out actually the day I left to come to Kansas. So we stay pretty busy at home.
You said also that you had, yeah, anyway, before we started, you told me a bunch of other stories, and it sounds like especially the last week or two has been crazy in the Napier house.
You are most definitely right.
I assume you have a full-time nanny. You're a disc golfer, so you probably have a full-time nanny to watch over them.
I have a great wife is what I have. But I also have the 5-year-old son, who's Joshua Dutch Napier Jr., who is a spitting image of me and acts just like I did when I was a kid, so I'm told by my parents. So I'm sure I got my hands full for that. And I do have a wonderful wife at home, and she really holds the fort down while I'm gone. I'm sure she's watching right now. She knew that I was going to be talking to Steve today. And you've met her on quite a few occasions. She's a great caddy, a great companion, a great friend, very easy to talk to. And if any of you guys ever see her while I'm out on tour and she's with me, feel free to talk to her. She's very great. She's awesome in conversation, and but I've always had support from my family, not only just from my wife and my kids, but from my mom, my dad, both my brothers. I got two brothers. Like, it's just been awesome. Their wives and kids as well. Like, they're always super stoked when Uncle Dutch is around, and that's just how it is. We're always a great close knit family. So. Well,
I'll just say, 2 more kids, you got yourself a softball team.
Is that all I need?
That's all you need, just 2 more.
Well, maybe in the long run, me and my wife adopt a couple, but I think we're done.
Okay. Adoption is always a great choice. We should put a little shout out for adoption. I think Terry Miller might have been adopted.
So, oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Actually, whenever me and my wife got together, Tiana, she had her, and I've adopted her as well. So right. She is now officially mine, full force. I'm her dad, and she knows that I'm her dad.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
And that's a positive feeling to know that and have that role model in your life. Dutch, well, first of all, thank you for being a great disc golfer. Thank you for being a great dad, and thank you for being a thinker who cares about the game. And I don't know if anything will ever come of this, but the 3 things I heard: number 1, treat the tee different from the fairway. Maybe in the fairway, just stand still, do a little follow through from that. But when you start, you're standing still.
Right.
Or potentially, if we can define rough, maybe that would be a new concept. We could have rough where you have to. And then,
I like the idea of that. I don't know who posted it up. I don't get to see the live chat, but whoever said that was a great idea.
Yeah. My live chat has frozen. So I'm looking at this thing says the site can't be reached, but, and then the third thing is the fact, I think you said maybe expand the green to 10 or 20 or 30 meters, whatever it is, whatever's appropriate for that hole, and say you can't go past the disc at all when you're on the green.
Right. Yeah. And Dave Fubberg told me last week, he said the difference in the game now is putting. Like, people are really good at putting.
Okay.
So maybe even a smaller target in the future. We never know.
That'll be a different topic for a different day. But
right.
But it's another interesting idea. And then we also have to figure out what we want par to be, or what we want a great score to be. Is minus 18 is obviously off the charts, but is minus 9 enough to win, or do we want par to be the winning score? It's there's a lot to think about as we evolve out of this beautiful nascent moment that we're in.
Maybe we need to know what scratch is. What consists of scratch.
I think that's a valid point, and introduce slope.
Yeah.
The great thing is we've got this podcast, and I don't know if there's an end point to it, so we've got plenty of time to talk about this and start thinking about bigger picture stuff. So, and with that, we'll get to Jamie Thomas after the break and talk about how we're pushing this sport forward. But for the time being, I say thank you very much, Dutch. Keep being a great dad, and we will. We look forward to the next time we talk with you.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. I always appreciate any of the time I get to spend with you and talk with you about anything that, even off disc golf subjects. So, but yeah, thank you. Thank you to, actually, I need to thank Prodigy one time. I know you ain't supposed to do some good shout outs, but they put me and my boys in Kansas this week for the Junior World. So thank you all.
It's always important to thank the people that support you. Well done, Michael Sullivan and Prodigy and Will Schustrick and all the team.
Yeah. And then another one, if I can, Charlie Cavalier, he always looks at me out on tour and helps me with places to stay and things like that. And we're looking to do some big things in 2019, hopefully.
Fantastic. I just met Charlie this year, and it's been a pleasure watching watching him grow on the tour and learning about who he is as a person. He's a great guy. So
Yeah. All right. Thank you again, Steve.
thank you, Dutch. Be well. We'll talk to you next time.
All right.
So that was Dutch Napier, and a big shout out to Dutch. And one thing I would like to do before we bring Jamie on, I'm hoping if this website here works, I want to pull up UDisc Live. We just had the Discraft Great Lakes Open, and I want to just go through who's on top in the Pro Tour standings right now. With Ricky Wysocki not showing up at D-Glow, that becomes his one bye, which means that I think he had a 12th place finish earlier. Let me see about that. 13th. He had well, actually, I think the site's wrong because Ricky Wysocki has his one event that's not being counted as Waco, but the Great Lakes Open, he obviously got 0 points. So I think I can see. I think that's my brother dancing on the rocks behind us. I think that Ricky actually has 44 more points than it says. So Paul Macbeth with 414 points, Ricky Wysocki with 388. And those guys have very sizable leads in the race to win the 2018 Tour points. Eagle McMahon, James Conrad, Garrett Gurthey, Drew Gibson, Jeremy Colling, and Eric Oakley round out the top 8. Eric edging out Nate Sexton, who also did not attend D-Glow. And then on the women's side, and then we will go right to Jamie right after this quick analysis. On the women's side, Paige Pierce is sitting in the lead with 380. Jessica Weiss is in second with 361. Sarah Holcomb is in third with 354. And Katrina Allen is in fourth with 310. Again, though, it looks to me like Sarah and Katrina have the incorrect events not counted. So Sarah, by my calculations, actually has an additional 60 points, which would put her in the lead. And Katrina has an additional 60 points, which would put her in third place right behind Paige. So we'll talk to the UDisc guys and look at getting that corrected. Or maybe I'm just reading it wrong. So, and in fifth place, Ellen Widboom, who did the announcing, who did the FPO commentary at D-Glow one of the days. Fantastic. Watching her come up, and she got to play in the lead card in round 3. And with that, I'm going to see if Jamie Thomas is in the house. Let's see if we got Jamie. Do we have a video of you?
I thought we did a second ago. Let's see. Checking my webcam here. All right.
There we go.
Working?
We are working.
All right.
We're in disc golf. We're always working.
There you go. Wait, no. First, am I talking to Steve Dodge or Jeremy Colling? Because I can't tell at the moment. Hold on.
For those of you who saw that little image of Jeremy, that was a clever little thing to say. So, Jamie, I don't know if you know, but I'm going to break some news to you right now.
All right, hit me.
Paul Macbeth shot 18 down at Discraft Great Lakes Open.
Wow, I had no idea whatsoever. Of course, historic round in the history of the sport. Come on.
Not only that, it was covered live, and it was covered by Jomez on with a shot-by-shot compilation that they do the next day, and Terry Miller put together a little edited piece of all of his shots without any commentary or any music or anything. It was just a beautiful artistic piece. And then Jomez put out another piece about the round, and it was an amazing piece. And it was so amazing. Jamie, are you holding your hat?
It's still on my head. It hasn't blown totally off yet, but that's just because I know those guys and they're really good at what they do.
Pull your socks up a little higher. Then ESPN showed part of that Jomez clip for close to 2 minutes, full of Shakespearean quotes from random Shakespeare movies or plays or whatever they were.
Might have had something to do with Paul's last name. Might have been that play.
Paul?
Might have had to do with Macbeth.
Macbeth. Okay, so yeah, Paul Macbeth. He was the guy who shot 18 down.
Oh yeah, and the Shakespeare play.
So there was the guy. The commentator did all sorts of Shakespeare quotes.
Oh yeah, it was great
from all sorts of movies.
Oh, was it all of them? I thought it was just Macbeth. Aren't those all quotes from Macbeth?
How would I know?
I'm pretty sure. I wouldn't put Vegas money on it, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Oh, my 12-year-old daughter who has read Macbeth. She has read Macbeth. She says they are all, in fact, from Macbeth.
All right. We'll count that one right there.
Not from Paul Macbeth, but
no.
From Shakespeare.
If Paul starts talking like that, then your tour has some kind of weird effect on disc golfers that we're going to figure out.
I apologize. I was trying to be funny, and it didn't work at all. But what did happen was Paul Macbeth was on ESPN for close to 2 minutes on his birthday, and disc golf just got seen by dozens of people that wouldn't have seen it otherwise.
It really begs the question whether ESPN gave Paul Macbeth a present for his birthday, or if Paul Macbeth gave us a birthday present, because that sure was special, and I'm sure not to be repeated anytime soon.
Especially on the birthday.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I kind of feel, and I said this to many, many people, Paul Macbeth gave all of us a gift. I remember being on that 18th green, and there was no way I was going to be anywhere else at that moment. I saw he had a 55 or a 60 footer for birdie to go 18 down. And it was, I truly wonder if that was one of the most clutch putts of his career.
Well, wait, let me ask you, I'm just going to come on your podcast and interview you. As I'm watching that moment on the video recap, I mean, obviously it's a very tense moment, and everybody wants, I think if everybody could will that disc to go in themselves, right, they would. What did you feel in that moment? I want to live vicariously through you for a second.
I didn't think about where it could go. I was not thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be the greatest round ever. I was thinking 18 down through 18. This is a magical time. And I wasn't thinking to myself, gosh, it's taking him 12 seconds to putt. I was just like everybody else. I was thinking, I want this disc to go in. I want this 18 down to happen. And if there's anything that my mind and body can do to will that disc into the basket, I'm going to do it. And it felt like a Sprint commercial, because you could have heard a pin drop before he put that. And it was on the way, and everybody was, that disc hit the chains, and it was just an eruption of happiness throughout the entire disc golf universe. It was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I'm just trying to have a relaxing vacation here at home with family for a week, and my phone starts blowing up. What did you see what happened? And I honestly didn't see it in the moment. And so I had to go back and look, and then SportsCenter happened. And I can tell you, having to prepare every week for the upshot,
right?
You know, I always look forward to the final rounds, and I kind of like go through, I watch the other rounds, but I'm really anticipating the final. I was not as excited to watch the final round. I was like, really? There's more golf? This isn't, they didn't just call the tournament at this point? I mean,
I think Paul, on the final day when they were on the tee, and I don't know exactly when this happened, but I think somebody told me that he said, wait, we have to play another round? Like, it feels like there should be, let's just call it. That was really fun. But they did have to play a final round because someone named Willie Prince wanted to make it a game. And he goes 10 down through the first 9 holes as well, finishes, I think, 13 down. An absolutely incredible round from a regional guy, regional pro, who decides to get second at his first Pro Tour event.
I mean, I think what was his last Pro Tour finish was like 44th in Jonesboro or something like that, and that was his best ever.
I didn't even know he played in Jonesboro.
Oh, I think he played one of your tournaments last year.
He looked, it's funny because he looked very familiar. I thought I'd seen him somewhere, but I know that he'd never been on podium.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. So to go from like 44th to second, one Pro Tour event later, it's hats off to him.
That's awesome. At that rate, he'll be negative 41st in his next event.
I think there might be a limiting factor there and an animal guarding the top of that podium, but you know, maybe theoretically, I'm with you. I'm with you. It's
probably a Griffin.
Yeah, that one.
So you mentioned that you get ready for your podcast every week. And that is a perfect segue to where I want this conversation to go, because Paul Macbeth getting on ESPN and getting that almost 2 minutes of street cred with fantastic commentary by a very excitable ESPN commentator. Absolutely amazing. And it's sort of the pinnacle of where disc golf media has gotten so far. And it's fantastic that we are super excited about 2 minutes on ESPN. I have a feeling in a year or two, that is not going to be the pinnacle anymore. It's just going to be a stepping stone as to where we're going and how we're getting there. What do you think?
It very well could be. I mean, I remember somebody that when we got a chance to tour the Bristol campus a couple years back, talking to Mo Barani, and he told me this was a few years ago when we were just getting the top 10 spots. And I kind of asked him, I was like, realistically, how much does this help us? And he said, it's good, but the milestone to look back on will be when SportsCenter anchors are doing a standalone piece on the sport. And, for that reason, I couldn't sleep. I was so excited after seeing that highlight piece. I probably stayed up till 5 a.m. and it just, my brain's going and I'm thinking of ideas and all that kind of stuff. And, hopefully this will open the floodgates. I mean, if you look at the way we evolved on Top 10, we got a lot of aces on within a handful of months. I think we went from 1 to like 6 within 3 months. I don't expect it to be that quick with this because this takes a lot more time and practice, and it takes more attention paid to the overall kind of shape of what our pro scene is than, just throwing a clip on there and saying something about it.
Right.
But, that the door is open, and I don't think it's going to be closed back on us anytime soon. It's just, I think we have an opportunity now in front of us.
So I'll take exactly what you said and give an analogy and agree 100%. My brother's a big soccer fan, and I remember 20 years ago when ESPN started showing the highlights of the MLS, or if it was the MLS back then, and they would make fun of it as it was going, and they wouldn't show the lead up to the goal, which is really the important part of a soccer play. They would just show the guy kicking it in and say, hey, look, there's people rooting for soccer. Isn't that silly? And fast forward 20 years, and it obviously didn't take all these 20 years, but fast forward, and now they are doing pieces about soccer, and it's a real and significant thing. We did all that in just 3 years. They, the first time there was an ace, they said, wow, isn't this crazy? I don't know if they said what a ridiculous sport, but you could potentially hear the sarcasm and the who really cares about this dripping off their voices, and that is totally gone right now. He did a beautiful job with that piece, and it feels like they recognize this sport is growing fast and we care about it.
I think it's interesting that you bring that up, because if you look back at the attitudes, I think, in the general public towards soccer, or football as the rest of the world calls it, we've sort of mirrored that attitude up through the 80s and 90s. And, obviously the U.S. women's team didn't get the respect they deserved in the 90s. And it's starting to come around, and we're starting to realize how important of a sport it is internationally. So what I wonder is, when we look back on this in 20 years, did disc golf just come up at the right time? If you look at us, if you look at something like esports, the attitudes towards those things are changing. And I reference this a lot. Anybody who's heard me talk, I'm a big esports fan, but I just think that the time we're coming up in is so much more conducive to our activity and our culture around our sport than it would have been. Even like, think about the days where Climo was dominating. Right. Even if 9-time world champion Ken Climo could have gotten SportsCenter coverage, it might have actually affected attitudes in a more negative way. So I wonder if we're going to look back and think how lucky we were that it's right now.
Yeah, I think you might have hit the nail on the head. And I've been saying for a couple of years now, or as long as people would listen to me, we don't want to get big until we're ready. We need to have that audience. And these little incremental steps are actually perfect for us, because it solidifies the game in people's minds, and more people start watching, and Jomez gets more views, Central Coast gets more views, the live broadcast gets more views. Whoa, Jamie. So I'm going to just give myself a little plug real quick. In 2016, average watch time was 22 minutes. In 2017, it was just over 30 minutes. 2018, is this 18?
This is 18.
Wow, it's gone fast. 2018, Our goal was 40 minutes average watch time. We hadn't gotten there yet, and we're still not there yet. But at D-Glow, the average watch time was over 39 minutes for all 3 days broadcast, which is really, really exciting.
That's fantastic.
What's happening is that people are tuning in. They're recognizing, okay, this is a quality product, and I can put this on my big screen and just eat my popcorn and feel good about it. So just a little plug, like we keep on going and take these little steps and people get excited about it. So, but absolutely, I think we're going to look back and see this, just as you said, it's another incremental step, and we hit it at the right time. Now we have about 8 minutes left, and I want to play a game that I'm probably going to lose very badly.
All right.
The only advantage I have is that I didn't tell you about the game before a second ago.
Yeah, this is news to me.
The disadvantage is that I didn't prepare for the game at all either. So, well, I did a little bit, but not a whole lot. So anyway, the game that I want to play is name a disc golf media milestone.
Okay.
And I'll let you go first, and then I'll counter with another one, and we'll just go back and forth. And the goal of this game is just to have fun and sort of celebrate and remember how we got here.
All right. In the spirit of fun, I will take the harder ones first so that we can go back and forth a little. Because I'll name the ones that have just happened and some of the ones I've been a part of, but
okay,
that's a little less fun. I think a moment that I remember, I'll go back to, well, I don't remember personally. I wasn't in the game at this time, but watching the 99 US DGC, the first year they ran it, and they put out a VHS copy. And I remember watching because they hired this huge camera crew and they built risers and everything like you would see at a golf event. And, you know, big crew. I believe Sam Ferrens did commentary for it that first year. Just, you know, huge throwback. And pertinent that the 20th anniversary of the US DGC is this year. So, yeah, we'll go with that one. 99 US DGC VHS.
VHS. I love the start. That is an old school start. So I'm going to go ahead and throw out an old school thing. I'm going to guess the year 2005, 2006. And I think Disc Golf Center helped put this on, just to throw that out there. If you want to support disc golf, it might stay forever because we're going to keep referencing it like this. So thank you, Disc Golf Center. Do you remember the USDGC dots?
I've heard legend of the dots. And I think the first USDGC I ever went to was 13. And I think they still had the system like on a TV.
Yeah.
I may be misremembering that, but I remember they like had a system on the TV, even though there was a live broadcast.
It was on the computer. Mm-hmm. And it just showed where the disc started and where the disc finished and whether it was a hyzer or an anhyzer or a straight shot. And then so you knew it's basically like you disc throw tracker plus a graphic, and it was instant and super fun. It was awesome.
And that wasn't that long ago. All right, let's throw one back at you. Let's go. I mean, I actually don't know when they started, but you have to talk about Disc Golf Planet and the evolution of media. I mean, you have guys that have won Emmy Awards, and you know they're people who feel different ways about that group of people. John Dusler, Terry Roddy, Patrick Brogdon on down. But man, there's some high-powered talent that still works in the mainstream sports media that took a gamble on disc golf and started putting it on the internet for people to see. So I think that's a huge milestone.
And I'm going to go ahead and put Disc Golf Planet around 2012, 13.
It might have even been a couple years before that. I know I came into the game in 2009, and they were they weren't on YouTube yet, but they had their own paywall site where you could get membership. So
yeah,
somewhere in there.
Okay, so I'll throw back at you 2004 MSDGC. We put out a DVD of that event. I think we got it out by Christmas, which
somebody agrees. Somebody likes that.
Boston is a fan of the MSDGC DVDs, but we got it out by Christmas, and we made DVDs of every event through, I think, 2012. At which point live broadcast was a thing that has been at Maple Hill. So I'll say the 2004 MSDGC just for setting that stage.
All right. And I can't believe I skipped over this one. I'm glad you said something about DVDs. How about the Clash DVD series with Billy Crump doing the grudge matches with the best players in the world? I know you interviewed Garrett Gerthy last week on this podcast, and he's on one of my favorite ones. I think Clash at Pine Oaks was such a good, I mean, so many great memories out of that, and some of the best sayings and commentary in the sport. Like butter on a hot roll.
Hot roll and make them pucker.
Oh, yeah.
Pucker factor. Yes, Billy Crump is a very good one. Hey, on the heels of Billy Crump, let's keep going, and let's go ahead and give a awkward shout out to Salient Discs for putting us on ESPN3. That was a thing that happened. A lot of people saw it, and then they played it again when they had their Ocho celebration. That was absolutely a thing. Doesn't matter how you feel about Salient, but they did do that, and it was significant.
Yeah, however you feel, and I'll keep my personal feelings out of it, but the audacity to try is impressive. And, it wouldn't be disc golf if we didn't kind of stumble and awkwardly do some things down the line anyway. That's the nature of our sport. Okay, let's throw one at you. The birth of what I'll call my generation. I believe Central Coast. Are you trying to distract me? Is this a defense tactic in this game here? The 2011, I believe, is the year that Central Coast Disc Golf was founded, and Ian Anderson started doing his thing out of San Diego. Jomez Productions was right around then as well. They may have been 2012. So the new crop and sort of the leaders in the tournament coverage industry today, 2011.
That's a really good year. I'll go ahead and say in honor of some other pioneers, Terry Miller.
Sure.
Probably 2009, the disc golf guys started doing stuff. And I'm going to save Smashbox for my next one.
All right. I would steal Smashbox from you. I'm trying to remember the exact year. I remember the first time I saw him trying to put the upload pieces together, and he had this like rigged up modem inside of a Tupperware box that he wore in a backpack. It was ridiculous. But, look how far they've come since then. But I'll leave you that one, and I will take a little page out of the self-promotion playbook and say Spin TV came around in 2013. As I was finishing film school, got a chance to help them start that project up, and very proud of what we were able to do there.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the backpack and the camera. I was actually talking to Terry today, and he said he had the backpack and the camera and the microphone all at the same time, and that's how he got going with Smashbox. And the funny thing is, I'm here with my brother, and I was putting off on. The bugs are getting crazy out here. It's dusk in Maine. There's a lot of mosquitoes. My brother was actually putting off on my legs while you were saying your last one, which I honestly don't know what it was, but I have a great picture of him with a backpack in 2007, I believe. It might have been 6. And my brother-in-law actually had a computer and was debugging something in the laptop.
The antenna sticking out.
He has a laptop. He has an unzipped backpack with an antenna coming out of it, and my brother-in-law following with a keyboard typing on it. And Todd's walking up the fairway, good old shaky cam, filming hole 7 at Maple Hill with a go-kart battery. A go-kart battery? Very heavy battery in there to make the whole thing work.
Jeez, wow. That's crazy.
Those were crazy days, but we had to start somewhere. You got to get 20 viewers before you can get 40.
Thank God tech is getting smaller and lighter.
Yes, I think it was Einstein who said anybody can make things bigger and more complicated. It takes a creative, unique person to make them smaller and more elegant.
Wow.
So good on Einstein. And now I'll take Smashbox. Smashbox came on board. I'm going to guess 2012, 2013. And Terry and Johnny have built something super special.
13 sounds right to me because I don't think I was at the Memorial before that. But I will take a page out of the Memorial playbook and say the first Sports Center top 10 ace.
There you go.
Doss at Fountain Hills. That was an important moment. I remember I was standing next to Avery, and we were just filming the TV with our phones and jumping up and down. We may have even been in Dukes at the time, and it was super cool.
So I'm going to go ahead and say I don't know if this would be considered Spin TV, but Disc Golf World Tour had the scoreboard, and they had, I think it was a little triangle in the corner if they had video of that hole. And that was a really interesting way to do it. And I think they did all that through Instagram. You might have been involved in the creation of that, some of those, but you could click that little triangle and then you could see how that score was obtained. And what a really interesting way to get people to watch disc golf, because, wow, there's a 2 on that 600-foot hole. I want to see that. And a lot of those videos, the numbers for how many of those videos were viewed were astronomical.
Yeah, shout out to a guy named Janne Latinen. He works over at Innova Europe, and he's just a grinder. He's there at all those European events behind the scenes. That was kind of his project. So, and all right, I can throw one back at you with the Pro Tour, the connection with UDisc and getting all of that integrated into the live footage, into the app. Matt Kruger is killing it for you guys, and just UDisc is awesome. So smartest move, maybe the smartest move your tour has ever done, I'm not afraid to say to you, is to hook all of that up and make it so easy for us.
And it was just a nice casual dinner at the Cheesecake Factory with all 60 pages of their menu.
You keep that man around, Steve. He's got good ideas, I'm telling you.
He is a very good man, and 9 times out of 10. See, when I talk to Terry with a new idea, he just says, "Whoa, that's crazy." Or actually, Johnny usually says that's crazy. When I talk to Matt about a crazy idea, he says, "Yeah, that's in the next rev."
Yeah, he's already thought of it.
He's already and coded it. Yeah. So I'm all tapped out. I'm sure there's hundreds more. But do you want to list off? You probably have a few more in your banks.
Oh man. I could think of, I guess we could just do shout outs. You got to give a shout out to, we talked about Central Coast and Jomez. You got to give a shout out to guys like Cool Daddy Slick Breeze, aka Bobby
my
Brown.
God. Yes. Let's go
into dynamic discs.
I was going to say, let's just give a flat out shout out to DD for understanding a year or 2 or 3 before most people understood video is king. And they brought on Cool Daddy Slick Breeze, and they were ahead of the curve on that. Tip of the tough to DD. They got a lot of people into watching. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's so many people who are going to see this Sports Center thing now and think, oh, it just finally popped and it finally happened.
Right.
And look at all these people that we're listing off over the years that have just, built this thing up together. So it was not overnight. And I have only been here for a very short part of it. But man, we stand on the shoulders of giants.
100% true. We are all very lucky to have this kind of history behind us. Plus the 40 years the PDGA has been around. We just hit 100,000 members, our 100,000th member in the PDGA. And last I saw, we're over 110,000 already. It's like the ball is rolling, and it's rolling faster and faster. And it's super exciting to watch. And
when I joined in 2010, I got number 47,201. 8 years later, they've over doubled that number of members. That's incredible.
Well, let's look at that. You said you're 47,000 in 2010.
Yep.
I think I joined in 03, and I think I'm 22,000. So they got 25,000 in those 7 years, and then the next 7 years they get 70,000. Yeah.
The majority of people have been playing the sport for less than 2 years. So that's why I'm glad we did that name game, because maybe some of the people watching this podcast, they will get them educated on the history of the sport and the media side, which is always great.
Jamie, you've done a great job with Spin TV. Wait, you just put out, how about we got to say Simon Lizotte and his trick shot videos?
Yes, of course. And Ulti World came into my mind when they got into the disc golf scene as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't point that out.
Absolutely.
Simon's trick shot video shoot was great. It was a lot of fun.
And crazy fun to watch. And apparently the bicycle shot did not take a lot of takes, or it did. Wait, that did take a lot of takes.
The bicycle shot took a while. That was tough to do. You get the wind coming off the beach straight as a headwind. And the signature ace, I think that was his 3rd take.
Okay.
And we only had about 20 putters. So, those were all real live signings. And so we said, all right, Simon, you got 20 tries on this one, and he just nails it on the 3rd one.
There you go. And obviously the car shot was phenomenal. And
yeah, the MTA with the car, funny story about that one real quick. That was actually the 3rd one he completed. Oh. Because we asked him, we said, all right, how long does it have to be an impressive MTA? And he said 11 seconds.
Right.
So the first one he did was like 10.7 seconds. And he's like, no. We're like, it's close enough, right? And he goes, no, it has to be 11. He did another one. It was like 9.5. And then he, you know, it took him a little while, probably 40 minutes later, he got the one. And he was probably most genuinely excited about that of all the tricks.
10.7 seconds, not good enough.
Not good enough. That's like a wind-aided 100-meter sprint record, you know, and not good enough for him.
It was very fun to watch, and you guys did a great job on that video. So I'm going to go ahead and second some of what you said, and I'm going to make it Pro Tour centric. And I'm going to say a huge shout out to all of the amazing writers at the Pro Tour who put out articles 1 hour after the event is finished. So, or even the FPO is finished. So the FPO finishes at noon. At 1 o'clock, you can go on the site and read an article about it. Keep it fresh, get excited. Same with MPO. And then we have an event recap that night. We have amazing writers. Obviously the UDisc crew, Smashbox killing it with the live coverage, which it's ridiculous how much they improve that product almost every event, but it's probably every third event we make a significant shift, and Terry and Johnny go with it and make the best of it, and then take a couple of events to get it exactly right, and then they improve it again next time. And then we would be very little without Central Coast and Jomez doing what they're doing and bringing in the big eyeballs. The numbers of viewers they're getting are helping to feed the live stream, feeding UDisc. We're all working together, and it's all getting really, really exciting. And I actually have one more thing I want to say, but I'm going to give you one last thing before I sign you off.
All right. Yeah, I think it is so huge, you know, and there's such a competitive mentality amongst all of the media guys. You know, we've talked about it a few times over different interviews where there's this like competitive cooperative thing between Jonathan and Ian and Terry and Johnny V and I. We want to be the best. Like when I was with Spin TV, I want to beat you. I want to have the biggest numbers. But if it's not me, I always wanted them to have the success and to really. And I think that's creating better media products for everybody. So keep grinding and everybody working at the Pro Tour. Keep doing your thing. I saw it all come together at the San Francisco Open. I know how much it takes, and it's impressive.
Well, thank you very much, Jamie. And you don't need to sign off for this last one, but the last one that I want to say is all of the disc golf podcasts. I believe there's dozens of podcasts at this point that are just talking about disc golf. And some of them are talking about how to play better. Some of them are talking about equipment. And some of them are talking about how to run events and do that type of thing. And some of them are talking about the Pro Tour and what the pros are doing. And whatever your taste in disc golf right now, you have a lot of people talking about it who research what they're doing, know a lot about the history of the sport, and want to spread their love of the game. It's awesome.
100%. 100%.
Well, thank you very much, Jamie. And with that, we're going to say peace out. This has been Pro Tour Talk with Steve Dodge. We've been joined by Jamie Thomas and Dutch Napier. Hope you all have a good night. Good night, Jamie.
Night.
And before I sign off, I will go ahead and say one last thing. Please, if you like what we're doing, subscribe, hit the like button, and go ahead and hit that little bell so you get a reminder when we go live. Have a good night, everybody.